When it comes to Agatha All Along, a lot of people have been saying, who asked for this? And I'm here to say, it was me! I asked for this show all along. That's not even a bit. Look at this tweet I posted 3 years ago. They made this show for me. And man, I am so happy I did ask because, oh my god, Agatha All Along is shockingly amazing. This show has blown away even my highest expectations to become one of my favorite MCU projects. I know, I can't believe it either. If you told me that a spin-off starring the villain of the sitcom parody thriller would be one of the most creative, well-made, and entertaining things in the MCU, I would have never believed you, but it just goes to show the power of good storytelling and Kathryn Hahn. If you haven't watched the show yet, please do yourself a favor and go check it out. It's 9 30 to 40-minute episodes made with so much love and care that expand the MCU in some really interesting ways. You can honestly just click off this video and go put it on. I'm not gonna be mad. Everything they did is so much better than this silly video. I encourage you to take a trip down the Witch's Road and enjoy it for yourself. Please watch Agatha All Along. It's genuinely one of the best things Marvel has ever done. I know it may seem like I'm exaggerating, but here's the thing. I also started out not very excited for this show. Despite what my old tweet may suggest, I didn't actually think they were going to make a real show. When it was announced, it was probably at the bottom of my list for anticipated Marvel projects. I didn't understand why they were making it and was concerned it was just capitalizing off WandaVision's insane popularity, but all that being said, I was going to keep my mind open because unexpected projects are often great surprises. Then the trailer dropped and it was immediately clear that they had a pitch for the show that was worth making. Now having finished the series, I'm so happy to have been proven wrong because I completely see the vision. I now trust Jack Schaefer with my life because as the showrunner for this, she absolutely killed it. Agatha House of Harkness, or Coven of Chaos? Wait, is it Darkhold Diaries? Nope, sorry, it was Agatha All Along! The series follows the notorious Agatha Harkness as she's freed from the spell after 3 years by a mysterious teen who needs her help to travel down the infamous Witch's Road. Assembling a coven of other witches to take this dangerous journey, they travel down the road. And no, I'm not singing it, you can't make me, in search of glory at the end. It's a really interesting premise for the series, made even better by the fact that I had no clue where the show was going to go. It wasn't based on any specific comic, and they were doing something original with these characters, which is really exciting to me. And they don't waste those ideas at all, as the plot takes you on a road with more twists and turns than the actual one these witches are traveling. It's an unpredictable and incredibly entertaining series that kept me glued to my screen the entire time. A large part as to why this series is so successful is the serialized nature of it all. As much as I may defend all but one MCU show, you know who you are, I'll be the first to admit how they've struggled to adapt to telling episodic stories. With the tiring 6-episode format Marvel has leaned on so heavily up until now, they've often had a hard time fitting so much story into just those few amount of episodes. Agatha, like WandaVision and She-Hulk before it, manages to break through that mold and actually progress like a TV show would. Each episode has a clearly defined goal with a beginning and end. They complete one arc before moving on to the next one, all while progressing the overarching narrative. Structuring the series around a new trial every episode was a smart way to give these characters an easy goal to achieve that directly pushes them forward on their journey. That way, we also get to learn more about each character with every new episode. By the end of the series, they all felt fleshed out and no story thread was left hanging. It's nothing groundbreaking in the grand scheme of things and something they should have been doing all along, but it is nice to see Marvel learning from their mistakes and make a show that actually flows like one should. It genuinely adds a lot to the overall enjoyment as it feels like each episode progressed the plot forward much more than the films stretch out into 6-hour shows, as was the original intention. The 9 episodes they had to work with were more than enough to tell the story without having to cut any corners to fit a constrained episode count. All that being said, if I did have one major complaint with the series, it's that some of these episodes could have been a little bit longer. And not in a way where it's so good I wish it never ended, because that is true, but also it's the fact that there were times when it felt like they sped through a trial just so they can get to the big development at the end. It didn't take away any enjoyment I had, but I feel an extra 5 minutes here and there could have really helped raise the stakes and make these trials feel much more challenging. Marvel, please, you are not on cable TV. You can make these episodes as long as you'd like. There is no reason an episode needs to be 25 minutes before the credits hit. That doesn't take away from the fact that this show is so intricately written. Only after watching the full thing can I look back and appreciate how impressive the writing is here. You can really tell that the creative team put so much thought and care into weaving a satisfying narrative with some fantastic payoffs. Small throwaway lines from earlier episodes are brought back in big ways later on. Little details are foreshadowed for huge twists down the line, and it all culminates in a really rewarding viewing experience. Some clues are more obvious than others, but it just made things more exciting for me to watch. As the spiritual successor to WandaVision, this show made sure to continue the themes of developing this overarching mystery that kept you on the edge of your seat every week. As an overly obsessive fan with way too much time on my hands, it was a lot of fun to theorize what happens next and try and put together this puzzle without even knowing what it's supposed to look like. All that is made possible by the show's really smart writing. It adds tons of rewatchability and makes you appreciate each episode more and more after watching the next one. And by the way, the vibes in this show are immaculate. I had a blast watching it every single week. It's a delicate balance between comedy, horror, and campy fantasy goodness that delivers on a truly fresh story for the MCU. They do a really good job at keeping the fun tone for each episode, while also sprinkling horror elements throughout that actually land surprisingly well. I wouldn't say there's anything that actually scared me because I'm a big boy, but I also don't think that was their intention with this series. Horror is used in the show to give you a sense of uneasiness, especially at the start of the series. They creep into Agatha's life as the spell starts to shatter around her. Then, through the rest of the show, these elements keep popping up as the road toys with the coven and tries to throw them off their game. It's used sparingly, but when they bring in monsters, demons, and general upsetting imagery, they make it count. It feels right at home in a show about witches and makes the series stand out from almost everything else in the MCU besides maybe like Werewolf by Night, but it's what makes those two projects so special is that they've fully embraced horror. I would love to see the MCU continue down this path and give us more projects in the horror genre, because this series did a great job of showing that they're capable of dancing around with these scarier subjects, and it should be the start of many more to come. On the opposite end of the horror genre is somehow the most controversial part of this series, the musical aspect. Personally, I love musicals. Not the stage ones, I don't have the patience or money for something like that, but a good film or TV musical is right up my alley, and if it isn't for you, I totally get that. Considering they only sing like 3 times in the 9 episodes of the series, it shouldn't get in the way of your enjoyment of the show, but for someone like me, it just made me appreciate this show even more. The way they managed to create an in-universe explanation for the musical numbers was really well thought out, which is more than I can say for another superhero musical that dropped last month. Justifying it as something that witches have to do to open the road makes complete sense. Then by the end of the series, there's so much added weight behind the meaning of the lyrics that is so incredibly powerful. It caught me off guard, but it is exactly what this show needed. It also helps that every version of the ballad is a genuine banger. Robert and Kristen Anderson Lopez both returned after writing the iconic Agatha All Along song from WandaVision, and they put everything they had into these. From the true crime remix, to the sacred chant, to the 70s rock classic, I have been obsessed with them all. They've been on my playlist non-stop and will probably ruin my Spotify Wrapped this year, but that's a price I'm willing to pay. And speaking of prices, did you know that this show cost Marvel less than $40 million? I still can't process that because god does this look gorgeous. Some beautiful color grading and solid cinematography goes a long way in giving the show a distinct style. For comparison, Secret Invasion had a $212 million budget, over 5 times more expensive, and let's just say it doesn't hold a candle to this show visually. The series is a testament to the fact that when you have a single creative vision and aren't changing everything in post-production, you can make a lot with a small budget, for the MCU at least. The set design here is some of the best in the entire universe. I'd go as far as to say it's up there with Loki. There are so many different unique aesthetics that they're going for, and not only do they bring them all to life, but they do it in a really effective and unique way. Mixing the world of witchcraft with something like a wine mom's heaven seems bizarre, but they make it work. The people behind the show have talked about how the goal was to do everything as practically as possible.
Every single effect in Agatha will be done practically.
And trust me, you can tell. The sets feel real and lived in with such a great attention to detail. The main one is an actual witch's road they built on a soundstage, and it uses old school effects like miniatures and painted backdrops to give this illusion of depth, and they flawlessly pulled it off. I really hope that Marvel is seeing how successful this show is and taking notes for the future. Not everything needs to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. Sometimes less is more, and you can achieve the same effect practically for a lot less money. It does a lot to make this series look as great as it does. What really makes this show as special as it is, though, is Kathryn Hahn, a national treasure who makes everything she's a part of so much better. Any tongue that rises against her shall fall. I never want to hear any Kathryn slander. After 3 years of not seeing her in the role, the first episode was a very welcome reminder to why she became such a fan favorite character in the first place. She steals every single scene she's in. It doesn't matter what's going on, she will always be the most interesting part of it all because of how talented she is. I respect her so much for how she fully committed to all the insanity this show had had to offer. The exact moment that Mayor of Easttown parody starts and you hear her doing that exaggerated accent, I knew she had that Emmy secured. Honestly, Kathryn leading a show is reason enough to give her a spin-off series. She's so good in this role and kills it like nobody else could. Whether it be the outwardly evil and fed up Agatha we're all used to, or the quiet sadness revealed at the core of the character, she effortlessly brings out both sides. A dangerously charismatic actress with a deceiving amount of range, I would watch 40 more seasons of this just to see more of her. I can't really talk about other characters without getting into spoilers, but before that, let me just beg you one last time to watch this show if you haven't. Please, you will not regret it. You've already gotten this far into the video, so surely you have to be somewhat interested. Or maybe you just fell asleep and this is in your autoplay, and if that's the case, hey, wake up and go watch Agatha! It's the biggest surprise hit in the entire MCU for me, and a great achievement for the studio. It once again proves that you don't need popular characters to warrant getting a series when your writing is this good. I cannot recommend this show enough to you. Go and watch it so you can experience those wild twists, and then come back here to watch the rest of this video, please. Okay, spoiler time. We're getting to the juicy stuff now. Here we go. The absolute biggest spoiler of this show is actually the most obvious reveal of all time, at least from my perspective, and that's that Joe Locke is playing Billy Kaplan. Admittedly, the series does a really interesting job hiding the mystery in-universe with the sigil, but also every single sign pointed towards him being Billy. I mean, come on, just look at him. It's as clear as day. I think even Daredevil could have seen that coming. As a huge Young Avengers fan, cheap plug here, go watch the video, I was really nervous about how they'd handle Billy. As a gay and Jewish character, he's especially important representation for a lot of people, and it is a tough line to walk to get it all right. Performance-wise, I think he's doing a good job with this interpretation of the character. The personality wasn't what I was expecting at first, but after the reveal, it gets a lot better and we see that more sassy side of Billy that I was familiar with. And I can't deny the fun chemistry he has with Kathryn Hahn. Their banter together is hilarious, especially in moments like this when she's so clearly about to make him break. I love it. All that being said, I want to address the fact that Joe Locke is not Jewish. That is a huge part of who Billy is, and with how underrepresented Jewish actors are in the MCU, this could have been a huge moment to highlight someone with that same background. Because of that, I do think he was miscast as Billy. He still does a good job in the role, but I wanted to address the ethnic erasure with the actor. And I don't want to hear people making excuses that, oh, Marvel couldn't find someone perfectly. They found Aman Vellani as Kamala Khan, someone who had never acted before this at all. I'm sure they could have found someone who's gay and Jewish like Billy is. They have the resources for it, and I think it would have gone a long way to show that they really do care about getting this character right. On the bright side of things, in the actual context of the show itself, I think they did a fantastic job with Billy's backstory. We learn a lot of how he came to be in episode 6, where I really appreciate that they showed some very authentic Jewish scenes, like at his bat mitzvah and the ceremony beforehand, so I'm glad that that's still a fundamental part of his character. As for his origin, I am so glad that they changed it. This is one of the few times where I think it's okay to stray away from the comics. It's such a mess in those books, I don't even know how to properly explain it, and how it deals with baby demon souls that are absorbed by Mephisto and then reincarnated into babies. It's such an intricate origin, and I'm very happy that they went out of their way to streamline here. Simplifying it by having the soul inhabit the body of a recently killed kid is smart. I do wish the show clarified that he's both Billy and William though, as it's important to me that he has both memories. William Kaplan and Billy Maximoff are two very different characters, and I need Marvel to make that clear. While Billy Maximoff was raised by Wanda and was her child, William Kaplan is someone who had years of different memories growing up with Rebecca and Jeff in this loving family and having this Jewish upbringing. If they were to go and completely erase that identity, I think it would be a huge shame, because him being a Kaplan is an incredibly intrinsic part of his identity, and you cannot adapt this character properly if you're going to get rid of all that. I think the show makes a good case for him being both Billy and William, but I hope that in the future they just outright say it and explain that he has all their memories and is the two souls merged together. Otherwise, it really surprised me a lot with how well they handled this character. They gave him a solid backstory, interesting motivations to find Tommy. Young Avengers fans, we cannot stop winning. And they nailed his costume. I'm still getting used to the crown instead of the headbands, but everything else is perfect. I'm really excited to see where we go next with Wiccan. And also, I just need to address this real quick. Anyone disappointed that he is searching for Tommy and not Wanda was not paying attention to this show or does not understand the character of Billy at all. Not only did Wanda not raise him, he was raised by two loving parents for 3 years in his own mind, but he has no memory of her at all. And he knows for a fact that she's dead. So why would he go searching for her when he knows that Tommy is missing and out there? It makes perfect sense to me, and I think it is a much more thematically significant idea to have him go look for his brother. I'm very glad that Wanda didn't appear in this show, because I don't think it needed her at all, and I think it would have undercut her death if you just brought her back for the sake of a cheap cameo. Personally, I want to see Wanda return in a Children's Crusade adaptation, because I think it'd be much more important if they earned that that return rather than just brought her back so casually. Okay, why don't we shift gears and talk about some of the best casting in the entire MCU, that being Aubrey Plaza as Rio Vidal, aka Death herself. First of all, she has never done anything wrong in her existence. I support everything she does, and if I said what I was thinking, they would take away my channel. I get it, Agatha. Secondly, I got this reveal spoiled to me by a Funko Pop on the night of the show's premiere, which really sucked. I'm gonna burn down Funko in retaliation, but also, in a weird way, it gave me a different perspective watching this series. Already knowing that she was Death from the start, I picked up on so many clues that were foreshadowing this character reveal. From the way Agatha begged her not to take Billy, or her laughing at Death on the Luigi board, it was fun to see those as clear as day. I still wish it wasn't ruined for me by a plastic bobblehead, but that was a neat silver lining of the whole experience. As a massive Parks and Rec fan, I was so excited to see her in this show and joining the MCU. Having her play both a weird witch and Death itself is so fitting, and immediately one of the best casting choices in the entire MCU. It's like she was born to play this role. It suits her so well, and oh my god, did they kill it with her design. The skullface look is an incredible interpretation of the character from the comics. It keeps just enough of her face for recognizability while also making her look so unsettling. This better not be the last we see of her, because she's such a fascinating character as someone who has strict rules to follow and isn't necessarily evil. Antagonistic? Yeah, absolutely. But she's also just doing her job and comforting those on their way to the afterlife. I also think it's fascinating to see how they developed Rio and Agatha's relationship. Having a cosmic entity fall in love with a mortal is one of my favorite tropes, and I loved the way they handled it here. From their falling out to the constant flirting, it was nice to see this kind of relationship unashamedly spotlighted in the MCU, complete with an Agathario kiss and all. I do wish that we could have seen more of how they met and the start of their love forming, because they just kind of skipped over all that. Just another 5 minutes in the flashback episode would have gone a long way. But I do think it's really cool that they actually showed something like this on screen and didn't try and hide it. A lot of the time, Marvel has got this reputation of queerbaiting characters, like with Captain Marvel and Valkyrie, where they go as far as they can without outright confirming it. So to have a show that is so positive with all this LGBTQ representation in a gay lead in Joe Locke, a gay lead in Agatha, I think it's really powerful and really cool to see the MCU heading in this direction. Also, in hindsight, now I understand why Marvel didn't give Thanos his comic backstory of being in love with Death. We all would have agreed with him once we saw her. The rest of the coven is rounded out by Alice Wu, played by Ali An, Jennifer Kale, played by Zashir Zamata, Lilia Calderu, played by Patty Lapone, and I have Sharon Davis written down here, but I don't know who that is. Oh, Mrs. Hart with Deborah Jo Rupp briefly returning before she dies. Fly high, queen. The episodic format was perfect for this because it really gave us time to know each of these members of the coven. Well, almost all of them. It was really nice to see them all fleshed out before usually dying right after, but it still hit me in the feelings because of how well their stories were told each episode. And I'm so glad that Jennifer survived the show because I enjoyed her most out of all the new characters. She had such a fun energy, and I would love to see her in something like Midnight Suns in the future since she appeared on that team in the comics. But by far, without question, the Lilia-focused episode was my favorite of the entire series. It is a masterpiece and arguably one of the best episodes of MCU TV. Argue with the wall, I do not care. That episode was so incredibly peak. I don't even want to begin to think about how challenging that was for them to write, as we see time from Lilia's fractured perspective as she's pulled from one point to another at a moment's notice. I vaguely mentioned it earlier, but the way this show was able to bring back her seemingly random outbursts in huge ways is some of the most satisfying payoff I've ever seen. It all flows so naturally as they put that puzzle together piece by piece, watching her learn these things out of order before saving the coven. It's a remarkable achievement and shows just how smart the writing team is for pulling it off successfully. In just one episode, they were able to take a character who was largely used as comic relief before and give her a heartbreaking death after seeing her backstory. Watching her conquer her fear of death and embrace her ending, knowing that she used her final moments to help others and find clarity, was really powerful. It's far and away the best episode of a season full of already good episodes, but the non-linear storytelling here takes it up to another notch and a level we haven't seen before in MCU TV. It is fantastic and the single most important episode of the series as it ties it all together in a really satisfying way. Oh, wait, I haven't even mentioned that Ralph Boner is in this show. Absolutely nothing could have prepared me to see that character again, but I cannot tell you enough how much I loved his inclusion in the series. Bringing back a character that so many fans hated and turning them into one of the most tragic people in the MCU is such a power move, and it did wonders for the world building of this series. Not only did it reinforce just how evil Agatha was by stealing and ruining his life, but it was fascinating to see how the Westview incident would have really messed someone up. Unlike the residence Wanda took control of, Agatha Agatha was more directly manipulating and puppeting Ralph around, and because of that, he became a shell of his former self, and someone who is constantly paranoid. Ralph trusts no one and takes an insane amount of precautions to prevent that from ever happening again. It feels like such a natural step for the character and something that I really appreciate them doing. I hope they can somehow keep finding new ways to let him pop up and keep developing him as this insane conspiracy theorist in the MCU. Also, the fact that they showed a mysterious person in the trailer only to boner us again is so funny. Please just give this show every single award for that alone. I love it so much. Please keep messing with us. It is hilarious that they have this running bit now. Okay, I've waited long enough. I need to talk about the ending because holy shit. I thought I had a pretty good idea of how this series would end, but those last two final twists caught me so off guard and I loved it. I wish you could have seen how my jaw dropped upon the realization that Agatha made up the Witch's Road as a way to steal power in grief after losing Nicholas. It's such an insane reveal that completely recontextualizes the entire show. I originally thought Agatha wanted them to blast her because she was using it as reverse psychology to motivate them, or that she lied about going down the road and was shocked to find out it was real herself. But no, she actually is that bad of a person and just used this story to fuel her own selfish needs. She just happened to get lucky when Billy subconsciously created the road, which is an even crazier reveal that I didn't see coming at all. I knew something had to be wrong with Agatha because there were so many different teases throughout the series that she was hiding something, but nothing could have prepared me for the fact that Billy created the road himself. Now with that hindsight, it makes so much sense and explains why all these little details in his room come back in a big way through the series, or how he has such a prominent role in getting as far as he did in the road. It's also so much more interesting to do this and have it be something that he created and now he has to deal with the ramifications of that, and his mental state after realizing that this dangerous road he created was responsible for the death of 3 people. It's such a fascinating idea that I hope we explore even more in a potential follow-up sequel or a second season because it is mind-blowing. I still cannot process that they actually did that. It is such a bold move to change the narrative of your show in its final minutes and flip everything on its head, but through flashbacks and actually getting to see this reveal happen, they handled it so well. All the clues were there from the beginning, and Agatha's facial expressions and how she never answered a specific question about the road at all. She herself bought into the idea of it all because of how real it felt, and I love that. I guess you could say it really was Agatha all along, huh? Okay, please don't go. One of my biggest concerns with this series is that they were going to try and redeem Agatha to make her more of an anti-hero. And I'm very happy to say that they didn't do that at all and basically just doubled down on her being a monster by the end of the show. It's nice to see her get a character arc and come to terms with the trauma of losing Nicholas by sacrificing herself to save Billy, but that doesn't change who she is as a person. Doing one good thing won't erase her past or change her personality, it just made her more of a sympathetic villain, which is perfect for this character. Her entire backstory with Nicholas was so heartbreaking to watch. I felt like I was ready to burst into tears just seeing them live happily, fully knowing what was going to happen to him. Honestly, death can just take me too, because I don't know how I'm supposed to go on now knowing this tragic backstory. Marvel, you're paying for my therapy. I was not expecting them to take this kind of turn with the character, but I think it goes a long way in giving Agatha so much depth as a character, and I like it a lot more than the Darkhold sacrifice. It's much more interesting this way, but I do hope that they answer how she got the Darkhold because that mystery still remains unresolved. What really pushed me over the edge though was when it was revealed that both of them came up with the ballad together. It makes that song so much more powerful knowing the context behind its creation, and it's made even better by the fact that Lorna Wu took a tragic song and turned it into a protection spell. I think it's so poetic that something Agatha used to destroy others was recontextualized into something that was done to protect someone. That is such a beautiful sentiment to me. But to get back to Agatha, I'm very happy with how they handled this character, especially with her going ghost mode at the end of the series. Like, come on, she even got the Danny Phantom white hair. She really did go ghost mode. As funny as it is that they made her earn being old, it's nice to see her enter this new chapter of her afterlife. She's not exactly someone who deserved to live after what she did, but I think that having her in this purgatory state is a really interesting move for the character. There's still more story to be told with Agatha and not wanting to accept death to see Nicholas again, and I'm really looking forward to see what they do with her. This show has made me a genuine fan of the character to the point where I'm begging them to make a second season. I would love to see her step into this ghost mentor role that she had in the comics as she teaches Billy what she knows, and maybe helps him find the Scarlet Witch. As a whole, this is arguably the strongest Marvel Studios TV finale. I have to get specific now that the Netflix shows are canon because nothing is touching Daredevil. And I don't know if anything is going to beat Loki Season 2's ending either, but Agatha's shock reveal comes very close. They had 2 long episodes that gave certain characters closure while others got ready for what comes next. It wraps up the main narrative with the road in a satisfying way and sets the course for a really exciting future. Earlier last month, it was rumored that a new series focusing on finding Tommy was in the works at Marvel Studios. I was very confused then, but now it makes so much more sense. I assume that's going to be a Wiccan series and the spiritual successor to this show, huh? See what I did there? Come on, you laughed at it, I know it. I am so excited about the prospects of that. Jack Schaefer has earned my full trust and I will be seated day one to watch more of this side of the MCU. It also means that we're moving full steam ahead towards more of the Young Avengers, and that has me more excited than anything right now. I cannot wait to see these characters all come together and how they become an actual team. It feels like such a natural next step, and one I hope they take soon before all these actors look older than Agatha. Now, is it the best MCU show? It's a hard question to answer, but I'm going to go with no. I don't think anything's going to top Loki anytime soon. That was a really special series that wrapped up the arc of a character who's been around since the beginning in this beautiful way. It is a masterpiece of a series and set the bar really high. WandaVision is great. Falcon and the Winter Soldier along with Moon Knight will always have a special place in my heart, but I would not hesitate to say that Agatha All Along is in the top 3 MCU shows. It's really that good. I expected this series to just be a fun ride with these characters, but it transcended that to be something that truly stood on its own and developed this corner of the MCU in a really fascinating way. Agatha All Along is a fantastic series and a great example of why people need to give shows a chance. The MCU was built on unknown characters and turned them into household names, so I don't see why giving Agatha a show is such a problem for some people. It's unusual for sure, but looking at the pitch and how the story unfolded, they had a very valid reason to make this show. Story supersedes all else, and when you have an idea that is this good, it makes total sense why you'd approve that immediately. And just because you didn't ask for this doesn't mean there isn't a story to be told. People need to understand that not every show isn't made for them. There is a very specific target audience in mind here, and if you aren't part of that, that's fine. Me personally, I ate this show up. It was all I could have ever wanted out of this series, and things I didn't even know that I wanted. By far one of the most creative projects Marvel has ever made, with some genuinely fantastic writing and beautiful set design, along with a great cast that elevated the whole thing. Every MCU show should strive to be at least this good, and also include Kathryn Hahn. And musical numbers. Alright, it's currently 2:38 a.m. as I write this, and my brain is still racing with thoughts on that finale, so I'm gonna go ahead and end things here to process all of that. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed what I had to say, feel free to give the video a like, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. What did you all think of Agatha All Along? I would love to hear what everyone has to say and continue the conversation down below. And if you want to see another video like this, you can click right over here. If you don't do it, I'm gonna start singing, and you do not want to hear that, trust me. Oh, you're really gonna make me do this? Okay, here we go. Seekest thou